All right, ladies and gents, welcome. Apologies if I'm sounding a little bit under the weather. That would be because I am, but I'm good enough to push through. These sets are going to carry me today. We have what is the fourth decider out of 8 that will be played, 9 that happened due to the whole Huang situation where he's unable to play due to illness. And this is a series which has some interesting levels to it. So back when Silver was announced, back when it was going to happen, there were many motivated players, and some of those players did some practice games behind the scenes. Other players were very public about their practice. And I remember these two players, before the bracket was ever announced, practicing together. And I remember it being a fairly close series. If I recall, Matador, who is the lower-rated player of the two, actually had the better of Mihai in that series. But I could be wrong on that. It's been about a month. But it's just interesting that these two have had to work their way on opposite sides of the bracket to find each other here in a decider. Whoever wins this best of 5 here, guys, will move on. And we'll be in Gold League for Season 2. So we've got El Matador, a player from Germany. A player who, if you like crazy APM, just always has crazy APM on the capture age charts. A really quick player, you could describe him as. He's playing as the Britons, a classic civilization for this map. And then in the yellow, we have Mihai, who was seed 1 in his bracket and has pretty much been dominating all the way through. Highly motivated player from Romania and a favorite, I think, in this series. He's playing as the Hindustanis. Now, when you see the Hindustanis against any civilization that's good with knights, you talk about how good their camels are. When you see Hindustanis up against a civilization that's good with archers, well, you talk about how good the Ghulams are. It is probably harder to get access to the Ghulam, but if the Ghulam ends up coming out, Britons obviously could have some problems using their archers. All of that said, however, I'm not certain it's going to be that simple because as El Matador tries to push in all of his food here really quickly, like you still have to get to stone, you still have to wall up, you have to do a lot to get to that Ghulam. And unlike, Hindustanis versus Mayans, which feels extremely lopsided towards the Hindustanis these days, the Britons have lots of other things they can do. They can go for cavalry, which can be helpful at times, and then they also have a pretty good champion line. So I'll be curious to see how this plays out. It's interesting, though, how both players are just like, yep, we're going to push in all of our food right away before we even scout the map much. I guess now Matador's case, he actually has found some important access or some important resources here. And look at this, didn't scout the back of his base at all. Just sees a gold, sees berries, and figures, I'm good. I'm going to go find my opponent now. And so he moves out, as Mihai will probably do the same. Now, this is a common fast castle map. You could see the walling definitely happening for Mihai, this direction and this direction. And then more walls over towards the right. He's going to drush at the moment, so he's adding militia. An important aspect with that is that he has to be careful of the lions. You can get to your opponent without running into the lions, but scouting is going to be helpful. And the way that my Gold Rush maps tend to work, guys, is the lions or the wolves, I guess, depending on the generation, are always split up on the sides. And I, a little bit of bias because it was my idea, but I actually think it's a really good idea. Now, Mihai did scout this, right? So if he was paying attention, he would have been able to see the lion. But yeah, he does have an avenue right through the middle. The main thing is obviously you need to scout. And you don't know where that middle is because you don't know where your opponent is yet. The middle in his mind could be here because his opponent could be spawned over on this side. So it's still obviously a big talking point with drushes. Mihai has now found his opponent, and it's possible he's just going to run into more lions here. So we'll see if this is even going to be helpful. For now, though, it seems like he's avoiding the hill. And just as I say that, obviously, he's trying to take the quickest route. And he runs into another line. All right. On the other side, very much looks like a scout build here for El Matador. And I don't mind that with Britons. I think it's an underrated move. First off, people don't expect it that frequently. But I mean, you're going to be able to achieve some pretty fast uptimes if you're doing everything correctly because you have so much food coming in from the goats. And obviously, he's going to have a lot of leftover goats too now because he kind of took his other hunt first. Now, he should be okay here, but you never know against a drush. And he did scout the barracks, so I believe that he knows at the moment that a drush could be coming. And we'll find out. Hello, T90. Hello, chat. Been waiting all day for the stream. Nice. Happy New Year. Welcome. Hey, John, what's up? All the games that we'll be covering have been played over the last couple of days. Nobody has seen them except the players and JBR, who's my admin. In fact, I don't even know if he watched the games, to be honest. So it's as good as live because, well, it's in many ways better than live because no one's seen them. Great wall here from El Matador. And we don't have to wait for things, right? And have like delays and pauses and whatever issues that can come about at times. Priority here was obviously making sure the games got done before we have to have these players in their groups and moving on to gold, which is the plan here for these two, right? And everybody else. Okay, so Mihai following this up with an archer range. And he hasn't really walled much. It looks like he's going to attempt that now, but I think that's going to be the key for him. Normally, this little 2 militia play is to just buy yourself a little bit of time. But typically, you're going to want to do a little bit more damage with it, and it doesn't seem like that damage potential is there. Now, a lot of players are really worried that the opponent, as Mihai takes a really big hit from the Spearman. It's fortunate he didn't take the second one. Spearmen are weird like that sometimes. But yeah, well, what I was going to say, which could be a negative for Mihai, is that sometimes players stick around and they try and clear up the militia, and they wait too long. But it didn't take much at all there for him to get the kill. And let's see how long it takes him to run forward, because one villager here, that's an easy pick off, and then you've got villagers over on this side too that could be picked off. So really important for El Matador to move forward, and this is the perfect start for him. This is the dream scenario. The only thing that I don't like is how little he has scouted in his base, and how the walls don't really give him great long-term options. But obviously, if he gets a few villager picks, you never know. You can see, remember, it's game 1 here, right? So, like, the pressure's on. You can see Mihai is pretty much walling up everything right now. He's got a gap here. I mean, his economy's not going to be good at all. He's got way too many villagers walling, at least for what's ideal. But here he comes with one archer, couple spearmen. We'll see if the spearmen survive, because Mihai is just playing line cleanup duty right now. This could actually be more annoying than you'd think. These scouts are forcing a repair there from Mihai as well. So let's look. Worker efficiency last minute. You can see it's dipped a little bit lower for Mihai. But I mean, obviously he's still going to have the villagers. So yeah, walling with a lot of villagers isn't ideal, but he definitely had to do it there, because the alternative is that the scouts are going to be in his base. So, you know that wall I talked about, which is not walling things in the long term? It actually doesn't look too bad right now, does it? He does know about this gold, so he can always leave his base later. He's going to bring his scouts home. He's about to be on 7 scouts here, El Matador. A move that I honestly don't mind, because his food eco is flying. He's got 11 farms already, has his berries still being brought in. Compare that to the 8 farms. So a lot of people think like, okay, the scout player is spending more on food, so we're going to be later to Castle Age. Well, the build for scout builds usually means you have more farms, right? So that means you're going to have more food income coming in. There's a weak spearman here, and there's 7 scouts, so I think these scouts are going to take the fight, and they should get an easy clear up. And this could be... Is it going to be 0 kills so far for Mihai? Okay, he gets 1 kill in there. 7-1 KD right now. And the thing that I think is going to be awkward for Mihai now is that he actually moved out. I think he's going to come home now, because that's the positive in that. The positive is that he saw how many scouts were there. The awkward thing, though, is that we already have archers from El Matador as well. So, like, these scouts are going to attack houses, sure, but there's going to be archer units on the other side, too. And Mihai's going to try and get a castle up. Like, he's expecting it to just be scouts, and he wants to go for golems, but if these archers start to move forward, it could apply a lot more pressure than maybe Mihai's expecting. I mean, this would be a spot to have a couple archers, right? And if you think about, like, Mihai's approach, he's kind of stopping archer production. He doesn't have a blacksmith, so he probably doesn't even want to get fletching or anything like that. This is a big fuel age investment here from El Matador, but I think if he were to move out here, this would be amazing. Like, I'm not sure what he's seeing that tells him he needs to sit at home. It could just be that feeling of wanting to play safe because you're Britons and you want archer mass. But I absolutely think that he should be moving out right now. And maybe even taking a look to see, like, can he find the gold? He's moving around. He's going to see the gold now. This might get him to send his archers forward. And that's interesting. The villagers are banking the blacksmith out. And now he's going to see the stone. He's got to move forward here. This is, like, the thing about El Matador is that he's got so much skill. He's got so much speed. But the reason I favor someone like Mihai over him is just like decisions like this. In the moment, can you realize what you need to do? All that said, it's not going to be a horrible situation for him. He's still going to be in Castle Age. He still has cheap TCs. He can make knights with the archers. So it's not like Gulam dominates him like it would in other matchups. But at least from my perspective, I believe that was an obvious opportunity to apply some pressure, delay this potential, and take your opponent off of stone and gold. Hasn't moved out yet, though, as we see additional layer of walls here, and we see him on the way to Castle Age. I do like this. Scouting the rest of the map. All the weak scouts are, actually. I think that's manual scouting, not auto scout from him. Fletching upgrade now coming in. We'll see if now he moves forward with his 5 archers. And he's going to make a 6th now. Still feels like with fletching here, like his opponent doesn't have fletching at all. He could be picking off the villagers, picking off the archers, and doing something. Mihai will have a decision to make, guys, because there's a lot of wood in the bank. And actually, that gate's open. The scouts are going to... Oh, man. Well, Mihai lucked out there. I think those scouts would have been annoying. But, you know, Mihai's going to have to decide on, do I want to drop town centers or drop a castle first? I think dropping the town center is the best for your economy, but it's also super risky because you don't know if there's going to be archers moving forward. I'm still a little confused why El Matador isn't trying to use those archers here. But in the back of his mind, he's probably thinking, I don't want to fight with my army before it's upgraded. It's good general logic to have. And there's the TC. And this is... Oh, my God. This is so greedy, dude. Like, Mihai, it might just be his style. But I also think part of it is the experience of him. He is about 150, maybe 100 elo. Maybe even 200, depending on the day higher. I think he comes in... He was the #1 seed, right? He definitely comes in here as a favorite. I think he's being way too greedy. Like, I think so many players could punish this. But El Matador just didn't take his opportunities early. The archers really don't matter here. All Mihai wants to do is he wants to get those town centers up. And that town center is going to go up. And now El Matador is trying to find another way to break in. I'm not sure if I love, though, that we haven't even seen a siege workshop yet, right? Like, there's the siege workshop. Like, 3 TCs into no army. The good news is if you lose a couple of villagers, that your villagers are cheap. You've got 3 town centers before your opponent does. So you're probably going to be... You're going to catch right up, right? So you're probably even going to surpass your opponent with vills. The bad news is you don't have middle control at the moment, and you're under a ton of pressure. And if you want to drop a castle somewhere, as El Matador is being extremely aggressive, where are you going to drop it? Right? The castle might need to be back here, which is not what you want in the long term on a map like this. He can barely take his gold. However, El Matador runs into the TC fire. There's also a scorpion there. While there is a knight here, things will still be awkward. And there's going to be that castle. And so the question in my mind was like, is El Matador going to be able to do enough before that castle comes up? And he's killed 3 villagers right now. That's not a bad look. But he is still behind in villagers. I'm not sure these 2 scorpions can actually be hit by the knight right now. The TC fire would do enough to take out the knight, but I like the knight looping around. That could get some real value. And there's just been so much work here from El Matador. Like, he's got so much speed. Can he use it effectively here? You got the knight having to be pushed away. Another knight underneath the TC fire. Castle's up. Castle's up. Behind this, we have 3 TCs. We haven't really looked over at El Matador's eco much. He's got army here as well. Got a couple of scouts. Got a couple of crossbows still. And still has these knights that are going to need to be dealt with. Mihai actually hasn't even made a Gulam yet. Hasn't made a single one. He's just got scorpions and is maybe thinking about monks. I think a lot of that has to do with the lack of gold income for him. Which obviously, that problem won't be solved now. As we see villager number 4 and about to be villager number 5 over on this side maybe go down. I could be wrong on that, actually. That's 2 more hits away, and El Matador realizes. El Matador's unit control is so good. Like, he's got so many groups, and the fact that his eco still looks like this is incredible. Obviously, is it going to be good enough as the 5th villager goes down there? I think for Mihai, it's looked pretty slow, right? But his whole style here has been to just boom it out a little bit, which is what Gold Rush can be about. I gotta love this, though, right? Like, this is a nifty little play. And then he finally is going to have a monk out, which should have dealt with this a long time ago, and one knight gets converted, will be healed up, and then the other knight gets deleted. There is a hole here, but I feel like you don't want to get trapped in. Like, I think if you go through here, you definitely are trapped, and I'm not sure if that's what you want, but okay, well, the knights are in now. Now, is that what you want? Like, don't you need the knights to be here? This could be awkward for the crossbowmen. More knights are probably going to be made now by El Matador. And those ghouls might be on the hunt, might be on the chase for these crossbows over here. But I think this is more than worth it. The knights running in. An amazing opportunity here for El Matador, who's now killed 8 villagers. And the patience from him has paid off, and he's just found all these little nooks and crannies to run into. He's taken advantage of every opportunity. Very well played. Also, the crossbows over here are going to survive. And I think it's possible that the scorpions and the ghouls over here go down. Now, a big talking point on this map is stone income. We see a little bit of stone income, but not a ton from El Matador. There's still a lot of stone banked up right now for Mihai. And he's thinking about a castle probably around here, but he's going to need every monk to get a conversion on a knight. And he's probably going to need upgrades on his ghouls as well. Ridiculous how Mihai still has the eco lead, right? He's lost so many villagers. I'm sure neither player thinks there's a hole back here, so that's just something to keep an eye on. It's 4 TC booming for Mihai. So as he loses villagers, he's just been spamming more of them. But, you know, what's your long-term army comp going to be? It's probably going to be ghouls and a mix of something else. And, like, again, if you're talking about the Mayans in this matchup against the Hindustanis, they have eagles with the crossbows. But now you've got Britain crossbows, still have the extra range to work with. And then you have the potential to make knights. This is really good confidence from El Matador as well, as we see ballistics. So I played both these players a lot. I played El Matador more. The thing about El Matador is I've always felt like he has the potential to be like Mihai level in terms of rating, like 2400, 2450 consistently. Because his skill is just insane. He's so quick. He could do so much. The main thing, you know, when you have a lot of talented players out there in the scene, is just decision-making and consistency. And so that's going to be the question mark over him. But in terms of talent, this guy's insane. And he's got confidence as well. Whittling down this Scorpion. I mean, this is top-tier play from El Matador. To open up a series, man. Picks off the 3 Scorpions like it's nothing. And he's just waiting. And you can tell that his opponent is waiting to drop a castle somewhere. It'd be so good to be able to pick off the monks here if you can, if you're El Matador. And El Matador might win this game in Castle Age. This is nuts. Mihai doesn't seem to know what he could do right now. He wasn't expecting the knights to be here. The ghouls. Okay, now the ghouls can go in. This is where you want to have a knight buffer. But you're also killing so many vills, which is so helpful. This TC was maybe temporarily denied. It looks like monks are going to go get conversions there. As El Matador was also getting relics. Crossbow numbers starting to fall a little bit. These knights haven't been able to group up with the crossbows. Great engagement for the ghouls. Now things get a little dangerous. 21 villagers killed in this game, though, by El Matador. And actually, in his base right now, he's got a couple knights to deal with. Those were knights that were converted earlier on, obviously. That should be dealt with. And now that Ghoulam number's starting to get pretty crazy, guys. And the other castle's going up on the gold. And El Matador, while he's going to take semi-decent fights here, he needs to think about his castle position and what his army composition is going to be. Because these Ghoulams, they're not a counter to knights. They're not supposed to be great against knights, but they're still decent enough against knights. I think you need a castle here if you're El Matador. You need probably more knights instead of more crossbows. Continuing crossbow production is probably a mistake. And you need to drop a castle in the middle. There's a lot of golems on the field. There's now 2 castles to produce them. Now we see stables as well from Mihai, so we can mix in the camels. And while El Matador played like a beast, is it good enough to beat this Hindustani civilization? Is it good enough to punish the greed from Mihai, who's back in business here? And he's controlling the center hill. And he's dropping outposts everywhere. He definitely knows the situation. Things are slowly falling apart a little bit here for El Matador. But the timing here is crucial, right? If he can get this castle up, it can change the rest of the game. But I don't know if he can. I think he doesn't have the knight numbers. Like, he's got so much eco, but he just doesn't have the position that he needs because he doesn't have the army anymore. Maybe he does. Like, maybe I'm underestimating it. But I think, like, in his mind, he realizes, I'm not going to get that castle up right now, so I'm just going to cancel this. He wants a castle, and never mind. He's going to commit to it in the middle. He does have 9 knights, plus his crossbows help a little bit. And they also don't miss their shots because ballistics is in. Here's the castle now. The only thing he gains from Imp is extra range here on these crossbows, which need to focus down the camels. Man, I would feel so bad for El Matador if he ends up losing this game right here. He's played so well. He's had such a good game. That was actually pretty good from him that he had leftover crossbows. He was able to deal with a couple camels. And he sent more villagers here. He is going to weather this storm. And now we've got 6 golems from his opponent, who's still not in the Imperial Age. What do you think, guys? Do you continue to go with knights here? Do you go cavalier as the Britons? I think you do. He's just producing out of his stables and his ranges. So he's just producing out of the buildings that he has. The production's nonstop. Also an interesting move that he went for conscription as opposed to an early treb, but he's got a massive lead for the potential treb war, so that's fine. Gulem's coming in for a raid. This is something that Mihai realizes he needs to do now. It's really hard for him to contest the middle, but you gotta feel, as we see more random lions or wolves or whatever, that knights can deal with this. He actually has no gate here, so his units are pathing awkwardly to the side. But normally you go for a side raid like this, and then you want to hit other aspects. You want to control the middle of the map, basically. So raid the side, control middle. You can't really realistically control the middle when there's this much going on in the middle. And look at the army count. It's 28 army versus 5. Mihai's going to make it to Imp, but he's not going to have much. His only army has just been killed off in El Matador's base. And now he's going to leave. The knights have definitely proved to be good enough against the golems. There was an awkward moment there, but overall, it's looked really good. The archer upgrades continue to fly in for El Matador. And that's because he understands and respects the fact that Hindustanis can go for camels. There's no stone income, but beyond that, like, that's the only tiny little thing that I can think of right now that El Matador needs to maybe mix into his play. But he's going to start to take out these castles, and he's controlling the middle area. He also has 3 relics. So, I think El Matador should take this game. And, wow, this is also great as well, because I think Mihai's only win condition now is raiding the sides in some epic comeback maneuver. So he's building up buildings on the left. This is going to be denied on the right. And, yeah, light cav is what Mihai clicks. He's really low on gold right now. Doesn't help that he can't fully saturate this one because of the walls from earlier, but he's got bigger things to focus on. Beastly performance from El Matador this first game. Holy crap. Like, this guy is talented. Oh my goodness. Again, there's an elo difference. So I think their peak, someone just asked what their elo. Peak for Mihai is like 2450 elo. And then El Matador, I think, is like 2350. It's possible he hit 2K4. I don't pay... The guy plays a lot, so I don't pay attention to everybody, but I know El Matador's average is probably around 2200 because I faced him a lot more than Mihai, right? Like, Mihai's way higher than me. But you wouldn't know it by seeing this, and it really shows, like, how much does elo really matter? This is insane. Not many weaknesses in the play here for El Matador. He's even like walled up at home because he knows the side raid could be a possibility. That's why castles are good. Like a lot of players will just buy a defensive castle there. But I mean, he's killing Mihai, right? Like Mihai's win condition is to somehow raid El Matador to death, but he still cannot kill this army. An army of British Arbalest and Cavalier is way stronger than Light Cav. And game one, obviously, in what will be a really competitive best of 5 here. So he doesn't want to call it yet. His population's also not low enough to consider calling it, but I'm sure he's been sitting here like, what do I do from here? And he probably realizes he is most likely dead. Trying to max out on upgrades, as his population is actually only going up. So he's going to have Blast Furnace and full armor, but it's still just Light Cav. Just an 80 HP unit versus Cavalier that have 120 HP and way more attack. And El Matador's just repairing this. Still really funny to me how El Matador's just repairing that instead of dropping a castle there or sending some units. But what he's not doing is he's not... excuse me. He's not pulling himself away from the main battle. He's always keeping his attention here and continuing to treb everything down. Yeah, and he just sends a couple ARBs here. So, I mean, as long as he continues to repair, which he might have forgotten about for a moment, then he won't have any issues. But yeah, like Kever in. I don't think this should be a big deal when you've got however many villagers. He's got 130 villagers, plus he still has an army that's unkillable here. 'Tis merely a flesh wound. And what a statement to open up the series. I'm really pumped for this series now, because I think, like, both players are super prepared and motivated, and both players know each other well. And Mihai was seed number 1 for a reason. There's a reason that I predicted him as well to end up moving on into the Gold League. Also really shows you the level of competition we've got now, right? Like, for Silver League to be playing at this high of a level is nuts to me. And yeah, there's the GG call from Mihai. Crazy opening statement from El Matador. He played it really well. And ultimately, like, what impressed me the most about this guy is that he had killed 20 vills, and I think it was like 25 vill kills with 10 crossbows and like 5 knights. I mean, he ended up getting a larger mass later on, but he just got so much value from the army. Also, a lot of the small things too, right? Like, he got relics. He ended up 3-1 with relics. You know, there was a time where he wasn't sure if he was going to be able to place this castle. So he started placing it here, and then he was like, you know what? It's actually worth it for me to lose a little bit of stone and drop my castle there. So I think, like, not a 100% perfect game, but it's like 99.9% there. It's pretty much as you can ask for. And then you also eliminate the Hindustanis, which was an early pick on the draft there from Mihai. And you've got wood, food, gold, stone, everything looking really good there. Obviously, the stone was a bit later than Mihai. But on the flip side, we have to say this. I don't think it was a very good approach from Mihai to delay the castle. I think if he gets that castle up after the second TC, he has a little bit more Gulam production. Remember that one fight that he took? And I was like, uh-oh, El Matador, what's going to happen? Blah, 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 blah. Do you remember that? Well, I think that type of a situation happens 5 minutes earlier if he has his castle earlier, or even just prioritizes Gulam production a little bit earlier. The trade-off, obviously, is then you have fewer villagers, so it's really tricky. But, you know, to play into a unique unit, but only try to make that unique unit after you drop a castle, after 3 TCs, I think it's just a little too greedy. At least for game 1, at least against a player like El Matador, who's really good at controlling the map with military. So I'm going to repeat myself for people who didn't hear this, if this gets edited in later for the best of 5 ultimately on the Extras channel. But we've got Houseboat here, and I was a little surprised to see it, right? Like, I wouldn't consider Mihai an off-meta player. He's more of a meta player. So I was trying to think about it, and I did mention that they did do a practice set in the past. So I believe it's possible that either A, they practiced Houseboat, and Mihai had better results than El Matador did, or B, they didn't practice Houseboat at all, so he probably felt like, I can surprise this guy because he knows me really well if I go for Houseboat. No, I am not a father. Let's clarify this. My brother is a father, so now I have a niece. There's no T90 babies, all right? No T90 babies. Anyways, Dravidians for Mihai. And this is a civilization that we saw on this map yesterday in the Beery Derp set. And if you didn't see that series, game 1 and 2 were crazy. The second game was on Houseboat. The first game was Jungle Swamp. But yeah, basically, I won't spoil a lot what happened in that Houseboat game, but I will say a general thing that you always have to think of with the Dravidians. If you're talking land army, it's very one-sided. The Byzantines are the opposite. Byzantines can do everything really well. Cheaper skirms, cheaper pikes, cheaper camels. They get all the way up to Paladin if they want to go that route. Dravidians don't even get knights. So, like, the Dravidian stable is a problem, and there are some situations where games will call for a knight switch of some kind. Even if it's just, like, 3 or 4 knights, sometimes that can make all the difference. So that's just not possible for Mihai. Now, I think what the plan is here is to control the water. And this might be something that Matador is aware of. But Dravidians have some nice little bonuses that they can use on water. Like getting +5 population space from each dock, which is why you'll see the 13 out of 15 population here change to, I guess, 14 out of 20 in a second. But yeah, the map, generally speaking, is very difficult to play. It's much easier to watch. It's probably much more fun to watch as well. So keep all that in mind as we watch Mihai decide on what to do with his villagers. Yeah, dock on the backside here from El Matador. And that's the standard play. I think docking the outer ring allows you to get more access to food from the shorefish, which you can drop off at the dock. So if that bonus wasn't around, it wouldn't really make that much of a difference, but you will always see players dock on the outer ring for that reason. And I actually recall seeing some build orders too, like about a year ago when we brought this map in for Wandering Warriors Cup. And it was like 4 villagers on the outer dock for faster food income. Yeah, like this, actually. So a Matador has done his homework. So it allows you to get up a little bit faster because of extra food income. It's funny how I mentioned that and then he's doing it. So, I mean, that could make all the difference, especially if your opponent's plan is to walk over and dock your side. If you're already in feudal age and you're expecting it, could be pretty good for you. So, yeah, Deadly Cookie, I disagree a lot with a lot of his opinions. Love the guy, but everyone likes different things, I suppose. Oh, man. Now, what I remember Viper doing, and I spoke to a couple players about this, I was really confident going into playing on Houseboat in this, if it ever got there. Unfortunately, I got all-ins by Gunpowder twice, and I never got to show what I was capable of. But, even though I'm disappointed in myself, and I'm sad, and I'm going to cry about it later, I think the way that you can never be at a disadvantage on this map is if you play into 2 docks at home. So, this is what I mean. So, you play into 2 docks at home, and if you see your opponent has showed up, like, okay, now El Matador's doing it. Like, clearly El Matador is on board with my strategies. You go 2 docks from home. You're very active with your transport ship to see if they dock you. If they dock you, you switch to gold and you go 2 dock defense. If they don't dock you, you add fishing ships. Either way, you should always either, in the first scenario, have the docks up faster than him, so you will outproduce them on water. Or in the second scenario, if they don't show up to dock you, you add fishing ships so you have an eco lead. So I don't know if that makes sense for you guys, but like, look at this. El Matador is following these 2 villagers. He is on point right now, and I believe this strategy is perfect. The only thing that's weird is he's also being greedy with this food. So if he can, there's a world here where he needs to switch heavily off of the shorefish and send 4 villagers to gold right now, and that he might not have the wood. Oh God, he's going to try and deny it. Whoa, this is completely different from what I was expecting. Okay. And I think Mihai's switching up his strat a little bit. He's going for a barracks, which was not probably in his original plan. Huh. Okay. I mean, I'd be curious to see how El Matador plays this. Taking gold here, I'm not a fan of. You've just seen your opponents here. And I guess he hasn't seen the military buildings yet. But that feels like a little too much risk. Now, what he does have is he does actually have quite a bit of food at the moment because of the double shorefish on that dock and the deer we talked about. But like this, as he now loses his scout, this feels like a big waste. And now he doesn't have gold income to make Navy. Oh, God. He was in the perfect position, and I think he just got too crazy with it. This dock's going to go up, guys. Oh, no. Oh, this is so... Oh, God. Oh, God. Because the galleys die to fire galleys, too. Oh, pain. Well, maybe he can still deny this. He's going to feel like he has to. Transport ships can be weird. And here he goes attacking the Vills. But it looks like with an archer here, and that being pretty close, this shouldn't be an issue for Mihai, who's going to have the villagers run away. And now El Matador's got to hop back in his transport ship. Okay, so here's the... Oh, God, why are you taking that gold? Take this gold. Okay, here's the positives for El Matador. The positive is he has a ton of food. So he's gone crazy with how he has approached the food income. He might even take the turkeys over here. And, of course, he had the shorefish on both those docks. So that's huge. And on the flip side of things, like, we've got very weak food eco for Mihai. So I think you can even get away with losing a couple fishing ships to this attack and end up being okay. It just, you know, because I'm such a big fan of the strategy, it hurts to not see these docks being able to pump out units right now. And that just comes down to, you know, this map is difficult. The initial idea of denying the dock was what he thought would be enough. Then he didn't see the Vills, then he took the gold, and now that's just seen as a little bit of a waste. Obviously, if he wouldn't have taken this gold, the archers wouldn't be doing anything to him right now, right? So, like, he's kind of struggling to know where he needs to spend his wood. And ultimately, he needs to drop a tower. And, man, I feel bad because I feel like I'm just talking about all the things that are going wrong for El Matador at the moment. But ultimately, he's going to still be in a pretty good position as long as he has his Byzantine fires working, and he does. Tower pushes away units from the gold. I think Mihai's going to be so happy, though, that this tower wasn't here. Because if the tower was around here, it protects the gold and the wood. And now he's able to disrupt the wood. And these types of things will add up over time. He's also being extremely patient here, Mihai, with how many fires he has. And he doesn't want to... He wants to almost bait El Matador into thinking that he's going to take a good fight. Maybe even bait into, you know, attacking the dock and then having a demo pop out, which can make all the difference. Whoops, sorry about that. I love how we're seeing additional fishing ships behind this from Mihai. I also love the mill approach, where he can also transition to the berries too. So he is... Things have kind of flipped on its head as far as the food eco is concerned, hasn't it? And total food collected, still higher for El Matador, but I could see things evening out there. And, you know, like, you know, it feels like here's the thing. So I had said, you know, about the strategy and how I loved it, as we see a nice demo there from Mihai. The problem with the strategy is that Viper makes it look so easy, right? Like, the soaking up the pressure, all you need to do is go 2 docks and adapt. That's not so easy, and we're seeing that here, right? Like, now we've got some quick walls, great stuff. But also, you've got the archer range, but now the archer range on the other side. Now he's housed because he's struggling to keep up with everything. And you've got so many different things flying at your face. And that's the big downside to me suggesting the strategy we're seeing from El Matador here. Not everyone can adapt like the best player in the world, so I don't know. The more and more I watch this, the more I'm loving Mihai's position. He's only killed 1 economic unit, but he has more eco units working. His villagers at home are not idled, are not weak like this. Like, this is just a gigantic mess for El Matador. And he can't decide between, like, which wood line to take, which gold to take, which stone to take. And he might find a moment where he's able to stabilize. And if he's able to stabilize, at that point his opponent might be in Castle Age. Now, I like the patience here, but he's unable to take this fish, which hurts. So the fishing ships are not working at all. And I like the skirms, but he doesn't have the numbers yet. And my goodness, does this look rough for him on this wood line. We actually saw a big demo land from Mihai, and this might snowball this to game over, actually. We've got, what, 7 fires here? Yeah, 7 fires, and wow, what a game. Now, again, I think the key here, and I know exactly what El Matador is looking for, so he's going to be frustrated with himself. I think the key in this game, guys, is always scouting that this is going to happen originally, and then instead of trying to deny the dock, which is a nifty little move, I think you almost can invite it, and then you just go to one of the safe golds. Like, he actually chose the worst possible gold positions each time. This was horrible. I guess this would have been the next on the list. But then he went here, just because in the moment, that's just all he noticed. But I think if this never happens, and he goes to gold immediately upon seeing this, he will never lose his water, and he'll win water. And you can play into tower defense too if you want. Like a mining camp here, couple villagers on stone, first tower go up preemptively, either wall this side or tower this side, and you're completely fine. But so easy to say. Like, Houseboat is such a difficult map to play. You can't be perfect and clean on Houseboat like you can on other maps. And so Mihai's choice of going for Houseboat to kind of switch up the meta absolutely worked out well in his favor. He would have been up to Castlade here shortly, and I think that he would have dominated the whole pond too. So big problems would be had for El Matador. This is a blast from the past. This reminds me, excuse me. This reminds me of 2020 meta, where people were picking Vikings as a counter to Aztecs. Now, I think even back then it wasn't necessarily a counter. And also back then, Vikings had Thumb Ring, which I'm going to go on record and say this one more time. I think removing Thumb Ring from Vikings was a mistake. The Civ feels really bad now. The eco was really the issue with them. I think there's things that they could have done more. Hashtag bring back Thumb Ring for Vikings. That's all I'm saying. But anyways, even without Thumb Ring, the reason why Vikings tend to be pretty strong is they have really good infantry with that economy. And Aztecs are normally going archers, with Vikings can do decently well. Or eagles, which, you know, supplies, long swords. Back in the day, we were seeing a lot of berserk play. Can be really strong. So, you know, I just fast forwarded a lot with what could potentially happen here. I want to say we're probably not going to see the berserks, but we absolutely could, because the stones are on the back. And map is fairly defensive for El Matador if he wants to play towards walls. Over on this side, map also looks really good for Mihai. I think it could be more awkward for him, but then again, I think actually having berries forward these days and like your starting gold forward, yeah, this is definitely a little more awkward for El Matador. However, the expectation is that this is probably going to be infantry into archers. So I think infantry into archer play, Vikings can actually outperform the Aztecs. And again, they do get wheelbarrow for free. So we'll find out. Unpopular opinion, I like that they removed Thumb Ring from Vikings. They should be infantry, but everyone always played them as an archer civ. Well, it's a slippery slope, right? If we want to go through and look at like other civilizations and what they should be played as, I could be wrong, but I'm guessing that we could probably change 10 plus civilizations and their identities, at least like identities based on how they're played, simply due to the same reasoning. I just feel like competitively, I'm not caring about like historical accuracy or what it says in the tech tree at all, where I think it always said naval and infantry civilization, right? Competitively speaking, Vikings have been placed at a spot now where they're only going to be played on islands maps or like migration. Unless you're El Matador. So let's see if El Matador can prove us wrong, because, you know, like I said, I haven't seen anyone draft Vikings as high as El Matador has done ever since that change. This is actually the first time I've seen Vikings drafted at all in silver. I don't think they were drafted for a single game. So it could be using old logic and wowing all of us here. And we'll see if Thumb Ring really matters. I think that El Matador's Archer Micro is insane, so maybe he can do it without Thumb Ring. I mean, he did win with Britons in game 1, and there's no Thumb Ring for Britons, so who knows if that really matters. Okay, so early Drush is going to come in here. This Eagle's huge, and the fact that it's lost some HP here is not going to be very helpful for Mihai's chances. I feel like that right there, by the way, is like... when a caster talks about a scout losing HP, I feel like that is maybe the most unrelatable type of comment that I make. Like, do you guys ever, like, listen to me talk about a scout losing HP and just be like, really, is that really that big a deal? It is, especially with Eagle, because the Eagle has a bit more strength than a scout in Dark Age, but I think it's hard to relate to that. Whereas, like, oh, okay, 3 scouts just died to 2 spearmen. Oh, yeah, that's bad. Like, it's easier for you to pick up on those details. Oh, my God. No way. Oh, man. I mean, the villager might not go down, but that barracks is at what percentage there, guys? Was that at, like, 70%? Oh, Mihai falling apart here. And a lot of that comes down to the scouting, right? He didn't scout the barracks in time, I don't believe. And so the Drush doesn't get a kill, but it does eliminate some wood. And fortunately for Mihai, he's got a gold on the back now. And he is still on his way to feudal age. Also, the nice thing about being Aztecs is that you start with extra gold. So it's actually not that big a deal to be delayed. So sometimes if you're not really sure what damage you can do, the best way to get guaranteed damage is to go after someone's house. And Matador, sorry, is doing so, but is also waiting for the militia to pop. He has not gone to gold yet, which is really concerning for him. And I'm not sure exactly where Mihai's villager is going at the moment. But El Matador is paying attention to this. It feels like this villager is going to sneak, maybe? What is her plan? And gold mining's now coming in. I mean, the wood and food eco is going to be incredible here, but you might... I guess this confirms that he's not going to make any additional militia. Sometimes players will do that. They'll hold the map control, and then they'll meet up later and have 4 militia and upgrade to man-at-arms when they make it to feudal. But what I like about El Matador's position is that he's kept all of this at home. I still am a little uncertain why Mihai has this villager forward. It has to be for an archer range. But, you know, knowing Mihai, I'm wondering, is this too fancy? Or is it perhaps perfectly fancy or calculated fanciness? Because no one expects it. You know, everyone has a plan, so there's an archer range on their face, something like that. I don't know. Oh God, this is okay. We are seeing additional militia now from El Matador, and these archer ranges are kissing, man. Leave room for Jesus here. Okay, that eagle's gonna go down. The villager was spotted, so he's probably like, what? And now here's the problem, like, you've put your archer range forward, and you're not gonna win the fight. So your archer range, any units that come out of this archer range are just cut off from the rest of the party here. It hasn't been perfect for El Matador, though. While he did get wheelbarrow for free, he did get really housed there. So his skirmishers were delayed. His villagers here were all pulled off. He also can't afford man-at-arms right now. He actually doesn't have the food, so... And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Mihai will be able to take this fight. He's going to have another eagle here in a second. He's going to have 2 archers and a skirm, which is way more than what El Matador has. The starting scout, though, has been the real MVP in this game. I've been really impressed with the value that he's been getting from the starting scout here. However, the militia... Well, actually, I think the militia kind of paid off as well. Man-at-arms would have been huge, but yet again, the starting scout going in and getting some value here. Now, this villager's also been getting value, and this is just a scrappy game, right? Not the type of game that you really want if you're looking for the eco approach. And maybe, if we compare it to the previous game, where one player's up in the other one's business, and the other guy can never get to the opponent's base, this might be really good for Mihai in the end. Definitely felt like, with the man-at-arm upgrade, especially as the Vikings, with so much extra HP that you get, that would have made a bigger difference in that fight. Here we'll see a villager pick on the side. Here we have man-at-arms and archers moving in. Oh God, the tower is an important one. Will it go up though? It has to go up. You have to force it down, right? I think if you run away, this could just be game over. And he's gonna do a little dipsy doodle whatever thing. And okay, he gets the tower up. Super messy game. However, El Matador still has wheelbarrow. He's killed a villager. He hasn't lost one. And he will have fletching in here in a moment as well. That's something that Mihai will not have. I'd say the last spot you probably wanted to tower, though, would be this region. You probably would have wanted to tower your gold. If he can just continue to make archers and skirmishers, though, this could be okay. And wow, great job from El Matador not to lose villagers here. I'm probably going to jinx the guy. And he is going to lose... What? Okay, he loses one. But I mean, it could have been way worse for him in these instances. Wow. Okay. Let me just look behind this. What's the eco look like? So you could tell the micro has been insane for Mihai. He hasn't really been macroing that much. And he's been making a lot of eagles, which is always a nice addition when your opponent is mixing in heavy skirm. But he doesn't have fletching yet. And feudal age eagles aren't really that strong. That said, oh god, oh no, so many archers being tossed away here from El Matador. It's actually a gather point issue, but this is such a messy game compared to some of the other ones. Like you've got an archer here that was getting hit by a tower. The gather point for the ranges are set here, but the pathing is sending the archers around for blue. Still keeping an eye on things like, you know, gold income, army production. As again, another unit gets tossed away. It looks like he's realized now. It'd be worth it to just delete the palisade. Interesting game. Farming eco looking very good for Mihai. No wood upgrade from him. So he's up against wheelbarrow, but also the wood upgrade. He's got a lot of eagles, though. Oh, the micro there from El Matador was really pretty as he used the skirms against the archers and the archers sitting behind for the eagles. Also think it was a great decision from him to go to this back gold. He was a little stubborn and probably lost more villagers than he should have here, but still realized what the move was. As now, for the first time in a long time, he might actually be feeling the confidence to push out. It's not every day you see this many eagles in feudal age, guys. They take a long time to produce. These castle age times are going to be very late for these two. Normally, like archer, like man-at-arm archer meta, you're looking at 21, maybe 22 minutes on your uptimes. But these guys aren't even close to clicking up. We'll be looking at more 25 or 26, I think. I like those types of games. I like the messy games where we see a lot of different things happen. And right now, I think El Matador is clawing this one back into his control. It was never fully in his control, but the eagles take so long to produce, but they go down so quickly here. All that said, actually, if this eagle can kill that final archer, things are going to be looking pretty. Oh, man. Yeah, that archer is going to be really helpful. These archers are going to go down now, and then the other eagles are all going to be cleared, and this is looking painful for Mihai. He's going to have a lot of archers and skirms to deal with. He's not really going to have the army for it. So messy stuff. Continues to be messy. Beautiful micro there from Mihai as he gets a valuable pick. And we will see both players heading up towards Castle Age here shortly. What an interesting game. I think you're just seeing, like... actually, I'm going to take it one step further from what I was originally going to say. I actually feel like this type of game decides best of fives. You both want it so badly. Nothing is ideal in how the game plays out. It's messy on both sides, and then you end up having similar Castle Age times. I was wrong on the 25 minutes, by the way. But, like, these types of games, man, you've got to somehow claw back from your opponent or, you know, continue to hold control over your opponent. It's interesting. Mihai's not fully walled, right? Like, the potential for the archers to run in is there, but it's going to take a little bit of time, and I think El Matador is a little concerned. I don't think he should be so hesitant here. I mean, he should run right in. If your opponent's going to go for mass eagles, you're probably going to lose your mass army anyways. And I guess El Matador is just going to fall back, which I think this is it's funny. In game one, I also was a little critical of him and said that there was opportunity for him with his feudal age archers to do damage. He absolutely, at the very least, would pull villagers off of the golden wood had he continued to run in. But the fact he's just running home is definitely going to hurt his chances. But, you know, at the same time, in that first game, he did, you know, keep his archer mass alive, and it was really helpful for him in castle. So maybe it's just a difference of approaches. But I think you've got to be going 2 barracks here. Like, I think maybe he's a little mind-gamed right now because he sees this archer range. But Aztecs are always going to go eagles, and the eagles become so much stronger in castle. think you absolutely need to consider the supplies upgrade. And now he's going to see more eagles. So if he didn't know exactly what his opponent was going to do, now he does. And he goes crossbow and he goes bodkin. And he's just going to try and force fights before eagle warrior's in. Maybe he just wanted a bigger mass here, right? Like he wanted a bigger mass so he could engage against these things before those upgrades. I'm a little concerned, though, with the base being wide open. We don't have an infantry switch or even a stable for some knights. I'm not sure what El Matador's plan is here beyond crossbowmen, which can always be so risky against this type of play. Normally a mangonel or a couple scorpions could come from this position. There it is. But for now, El Matador moves forward. You've got 12 eagles on the field. You've got 14 crossbows, and there's only 9 crossbows here. So these crossbows, they can get value, but they should be dead meat at this point. And they should want some support, which is precisely what we're going to see here from El Matador. So he didn't choose to go for the infantry. Now, some people say the infantry can be converted too easily. Some say the infantry is just too slow. Some people say that going for supplies and then long swordsman is just too time consuming. There's a lot of things you could say about it, but I think you absolutely need something. I don't hate the knights. The main thing about the knights is more so the long term. El Matador is playing with fire here. Like, this is clearly a player who has been able to micro his way out of these situations before, so he's just continued the crossbows, but he's playing a risky game at the moment. And I love the play from Mihai. He's going to follow it up with a monastery. He's staying on 1 TC. This is exactly how you should want to play this matchup. I mean, you can boom it out eventually, but I think, you know, considering the Vikings will have handcart for free now, you don't want to take many risks. Dude, El Matador's micro is insane. Like, this is why he can do it, because he can get away with this. The question is, should you do it if you can get away with it? It's kind of like Leary, where Leary always plays into archers in situations where other players will switch. I mean, he's not like that as much these days as he was in the past. Just like boldly moving forward all the time. He will have 6 knights with 22 crossbows, so the numbers are actually looking really good now. And the monks in the siege are actually going to be cut off now. So as long as this army doesn't get in somehow, it shouldn't be a concern. But I don't think Mihai was realistically going to actually go in. Wow, the unit control from El Matador is really impressive. Game 1 was impressive. Game 2 obviously was a different type of game. This is just pretty crazy stuff. Now, the macro isn't what it could be. He could probably drop another town center, but doing so obviously takes away from his micro. He's got a lot of stone being banked too. I was thinking that was maybe for TCs as he drops one now. But it is possible maybe he wants a castle if he's worried about this. I mean, that is a lot of eagles. I still don't like Viking Knights long term. I still think this is a massive concern for him. I mean, he's got holes in his walls. He has to continue to deal with this army. There's the monk now for conversion, and this is what Aztecs can do. Don't get the Vil. Oh boy, knight's been lost. Now there's only 5 knights, and there's going to be more monks coming out as well. I'm worried for El Matador, man. This is looking super dicey in his base. He honestly might need to use a market and just buy a castle just to protect himself. Like, if it gets bad, I think it's worth doing so right here in the front of your base. And then you'd have access to berserks. Mihai is giving a lot of respect to this army, but this army doesn't protect El Matador in the slightest, and it doesn't do anything against him in the slightest. So I feel like, if anything, instead of trying to deal with this, maybe you could actually try and bust through here. But maybe he feels if he can get rid of the crossbow mass that there's no way he can really lose, because it's just Viking Knights that are up against him, and El Matador is going to maneuver his way back to his base. I mean, very good stuff to be able to do this. Here we've got conversion coming in. The Eagles are taking what I consider to be a good engagement, but also El Matador is taking an engagement that's much better than you would ever expect to get in this matchup with this type of unit composition. His crossbow micro has genuinely been insane. There's no other way to say it. The monk here will get another conversion. Doesn't get it, actually. There is another monk on this side, but he can't actually convert right now as we see ballistics and a siege workshop. And the Eagles are trying to protect the monk. And the monk is going to survive. As will the scorpions, actually. Oof. Okay, so longsword wasn't the play. He's committed towards knight and crossbow now. The crossbow have still done a really good job. Much better than I mean, I would have died already. Much better than most players would have done. The spam from Mihai is unbelievable, but it's Aztecs, right? This is what we know Aztecs are capable of. He's got 40 army now. And it's just pressure, pressure, pressure. If Vikings had thumb ring, they would have done a little better maybe, but you know, we won't need to bring that back up. I like the wall here. I think this is good. The Eagles can't really dive now, and El Matador could buy his way to a castle soon. And his Mango Micro also just as good as his Crossbow Micro this game. These players are incredible, man, as we see another barracks from Mihai. I think what Mihai's been missing has been a killer blow to the economy. He has killed more villagers than his opponent this game. But I feel like this Eagle Mass can absolutely win the fight against the crossbows and the knights. But he just hasn't had the confidence to, or found the opportunity to really go in and take a fight. Like, how much respect do you really want to give the town centers here? How much respect do you really want to give the crossbows and the knights? I think he's giving it too much respect. But El Matador gets so much value from his micro, I can understand why you wouldn't want to dive underneath this TC. So he's going to depend on his Mangonel micro. But I mean, this is something, right? Like, he was just attacking this wall for the last couple minutes. And El Matador has only been focused on one spot. And this is where mistakes can be made, guys. This is where this Mangonel will go down. Because he's reacted here. And this is where things can start to fall apart for you if you're El Matador. Mangonel actually survives. Oh my goodness. But now you've got monks going in for conversions. The Eagles are going to dive. And this is what I mean, right? The Eagles will win this fight. There's just too many of them. And the siege is now down. The Eagles actually pull back as well to be able to, you know, go towards the monks. But I don't think that level of patience is actually needed. The Eagles over here, they might end up getting picked off, but it's just idle time, idle time, idle time for El Matador, who could drop a castle. I think you need that castle here. But then again, where do you build it? Do you want to build it here to defend this TC? I don't think so. Mihai's been incredibly patient. He's finally going to drop a second town center. The whole approach from him has been aggression, so I don't think him delaying that was a mistake here. And if you consider how little his idle TC time has been, it shows you how strong things are looking for him right now, as he is also just going to mix in some Eagles here attacking the TC. He knows that there's going to be a siege pop here from his opponent, as Mihai just weakens his own TC. Or not Mihai, sorry, El Matador. But he's really stressed at the moment, and the TC's going to go down. And more villagers will die, more army will die. And poor El Matador is dropping the castle on the front. But he's just taken so many losses here. It's truly an unbelievable game. Like, the level these two are playing at is all Gold League quality, I feel. But only one person's going to be able to move on. And in the end, El Matador is still alive. I'm a big fan of the Berserks. I think they'd be a good addition here. And, oh, man. Certainly, Berserks over Knights in the long term is the play. Maybe he's going to switch into that when he feels like the Knights have lost any possible... any possibility to do damage. Or get value. Yeah, this is awesome. That gold position could save El Matador as he drops another town center. The score from him is probably making him feel like he has like maybe 10 or 15 more villagers because he's lost a lot. He does have a ton of food eco, which again would be so good for infantry as he gets a good shot there and backs away. Wow. Wow. What a game. What a freaking game, man. Now, Mihai doesn't know that the castle's there. He might be thinking about a forward castle over on this side to deny these resources. Because he's probably thinking blue is waiting over here. Here's the Berserk play, by the way. 48 Eagles, though, so you need a lot of Berserks. If this is open field, though, Yellow's army should have won the game already. It's just the fact that Mihai is able to stay with his siege, and... I don't know. Part of me definitely feels like Mihai's being too safe with his army. There's just so many Eagles. Why not split them up in 20 on one side, 30 on the other side? I guess it's part of having this type of push is you always want to sit next to your monks in your siege. That is 3 TCs for Mihai, who doesn't have his wood upgrade yet. So he's like way behind in eco. And I think Berserks could actually do this, guys. Like, the eagle mass continues to go up, but why are you making eagles if you're not going to engage with them? When you have 60 eagles, I think you can send more than 3 to get a raid. I think you can go with like 20. But he still feels like he's controlling the game, still feels like he's controlling the map, obviously. And he's going to see Berserks now as we see Squires from that barracks. And look at this, man. The castle fire will help out a lot because of ballistics being in. These eagles will go down. And these eagles, there's been a hole here all of Castle Age. Those eagles go in to pick off a mango. Castle over here then from El Matador. Will he know the eagles are there? He should be fine. He should be fine. That one tile choke point is more than enough. Even if he had sent fewer villagers, it'd be really hard for the eagles to engage. So now it feels like Mihai's trying to take fights, but it feels like the timing is kind of gone here, right? He will kill a lot of villagers here, which will end up being important. But he's going to lose all of his eagles. I guess how many villagers did he kill there? Looks like he killed a few. Another TC there for El Matador. He's up to 15 Berserks. So Berserks have 12 base attacks, 65 HP. The Eagles have 55 HP. Crappy melee armor. And they've got 7 base attack. Berserks are going to dominate here, man. Is the Viking counter to Aztec meta back? This is sick. Like I said, it's been a while. A lot of people feel like Vikings are not very good on land maps now because of the lack of thumb ring. But I think it was Colin who was like, hey, Vikings are an infantry civ. Like, might be an unpopular opinion. I actually think that's a popular opinion, by the way. I think the majority of people out there listening and watching like the change to the Vikings. People definitely want to see more infantry play, and I get that. You say a lot about me, but I'm always okay with being proven wrong. As long as it's cool. If it's in a boring way, I'm not happy with it. But this is freaking awesome, man. Mihai maybe thinking about Imp, as is El Matador. That's a very good shot uphill, weakening 2 mangonels. And we will have Imp for El Matador first. Wow. 2 castles to produce Berserks. And he's going to continue to do that. Also, you can realistically rely on Jags if the opponent still has archers. So, you know, that would be the fun way to see this play out. But I don't know if it's going to work out all that well. Oh my god, a big shot there with the mangonels. I'm surprised it didn't do more damage. Crossbows now need to back away as well. This is a ridiculous game, guys. I hope you guys are enjoying this one. So many people died to that Aztec pressure. Mihai has held on. I think his unit comp is just going to be better. Like, the 42 Eagles are going to be so unimportant here, I think. We'll see how Mihai wants to play this. He was very late to getting some relics, too. He's going to do that now, which will give him some extra gold income. Eagles will run in. No, Eagles will run away. There's a chance Mihai wants to, you know, be an imp faster and go for a Trebor against those castles so that if you take the castles out, your opponent can't make any more Berserks. So it feels like he could maybe drop a castle here. But if he doesn't feel like he can actually get the kill, if he knew his opponent was on the way to imp, he probably would place the castle somewhere else and further away, and maybe even at home. This tells me he does think that he will win the race to the Imperial Age. Or at least that's how he wants to play this. And there's a nice shot there with the siege. The thing about Berserks these days, so the Berserks were buffed at one point. They used to have, I think, 9 base attack before Elite, and you rarely saw them before Elite for that reason. But they have 12 base attack now before Elite. So I actually don't think that you actually need to rush Elite here. It's far too expensive. I think numbers matter the most. Interesting how we actually see Bracer for El Matador. And I actually don't hate that move because his opponent has a lot of Jags now and he sees it. And he's worried that the Jags are going to be able to beat his Berserks. Jaguars usually do pretty well against Berserks if it's Elite v Elite. I'm not actually sure, you know, what they would be in Castle Age v Castle Age. But we're going to see the fight get taken here. And a lot of these Jags are still behind this. The Eagles are going to melt, guys. There used to be 40-some Eagles. And now Matador backs away. He's hoping Bracer will make a big difference here. And I think it's the perfect time to fight, right? Because it absolutely will make a big difference. We won't have Elite Eagle yet. We won't have Elite Jag or anything like that. And Jaguar Warriors are notoriously weak against archers. So the army count has swung significantly here. But still, we have so much of this game to be played. And a lot of gold control for the Aztec player. Mangonel gets taken out, though. We are going to see, what is it, Elite Eagle? Like, what do you commit to here if you're Mihai? You're so torn. You almost need Elite Eagle Warrior. But the Berserks are in a perfect position to protect the archers. And you've got 3 relics, which is an awesome thing to have. And I guess you might want to move those relics back home, but I don't think that's this type of game. I think they're just worried about production, first and foremost. So I think you need as much patience as possible right now if you're Mihai, because you need to keep your Trebs alive. So you need to, into the castle, out the other side. Okay, well, you need to do something to keep the Trebs. And then the Eagles, you never want to dive and take a bad fight. Like that, I don't like. You should want to fall back to your castle fire here, I think. I could be wrong, though. Elite Eagle, can it make all the difference? The Jags are also still in the mix. It's a lot of work for Blue, who has to micro down the Jags. And I'm liking it more and more for Mihai, actually. The Berserks, they were strong, but there's only 13 of them now. He's on his way to losing this castle now, El Matador. And the Monks actually have helped out a lot there, man. What a ridiculous game. And now the Eagles could spread their wings and fly and raid. Man, dude. This game has been insane. But with the 3 relics in the monastery, with 30 Eagles with 10 more in queue, with 6 Monks to get conversions, with the potential to raid, the fact that Mihai hasn't been hit at home at all this game, and it doesn't look like that'll happen anytime soon. These are all things pointing to El Matador falling apart here. We have another castle from Mihai. He drops this castle here. We'll be able to control more gold. He's got 2 Trebs, about to be 3. He is going to lose some of his monks, though. And man, something I really liked from Mihai in this game was his constant insistence upon aggression. Like, I questioned whether or not this castle would make sense, right? There's a chance that if you're going to lose this type of battle that we just saw a moment ago, that's kind of throwing the game when you have 3 relics. But he said, I've got this. I got to take out those castles. And he didn't allow the Viking player to get to like 3 or 4 castles, to get to more Berserks. And now this is absolutely over for the Vikings. So whatever dream people had of Berserks and archers dominating the Aztecs is unfortunately not going to be enough here. But what a great game. Seriously, I think like the key for me was the mix of units and the numbers that Mihai was able to get back up to. He's at 180 population now, and he could more than justify going for full Jaguars at this point, I think. If he didn't have, what was it, 20 Jags there, I don't think he has a chance of that fight. It looked so close. So, good addition there. Also, another thing which I should have shouted out, he had Imp Armor and he had the other attack almost at the same time. I think he went double Blacksmith. I don't have a Blacksmith hotkey when I'm casting, but let's see. Blacksmith there. I could be wrong. He might have just queued it up in the same Blacksmith. But he just like prioritized every little upgrade he could. The beauty of it, though, is that he's only making infantry. So, going for 2 upgrades that affect infantry affect both of his units, his Jaguar Warriors and his Eagles. Whereas when you're going double unit composition, we saw more upgrades come in for El Matador, but it applied to 50% of his army every time he got one, right? So, like, obviously, Bracer, Arbalest, Armor, and then he just finished this armor, just finished this attack when the GG was called. It just takes a lot longer. I thought El Matador was going to die so much earlier than he did in that game. I think strategically, the Knights should always put you in a tough position, but based on how well he played it, I can't really criticize his decisions that much. I think that was just an elite game from both players. Look at the Eco KD. I guess at this point, El Matador had lost a lot. Like, at this stage, it was 12-2, and there was 50-some Eagles on the map. That was insane defense from El Matador, my goodness. But I said it in Feudal Age. I gave the wrong person the win, sorry. I said it in Feudal Age. Like, that type of game, always feels like it can make the difference in a best of 5. We'll have 2 more potential games, but El Matador is now going to have to win 2 straight, which is what Mihai has done after he lost the first game. We'll see. All right. Ooh, this is a fun matchup. You know how I feel about the Huns, guys. Sorry, words are hard for me right now. Mihai's gone for the Malians on Serengeti. Does kind of feel like, I mean, I could be wrong, but it feels like Mihai didn't have the strongest civilizations lined up for this map. Certainly opens up a window for El Matador to tie up this series. Huns I definitely see as better and more flexible on a map like this. Malians, though, have plenty of flexibility with all their wood buildings being a bit cheaper. So Malians for Mihai in the north, and then we've got El Matador playing as the Huns in the south. I would expect to see pretty fast up times here from both. Usually Huns are able to excel with the aggression more, though. So things like scouts into archers into knights and cav archers. Huns can dominate Fuel Age and Castle Age, and pretty much can dominate any map where you can't really wall, which is precisely what this map is here. Yes, okay, so tomorrow will also be Lan versus Philip. So Lan versus Philip tomorrow, Husiel versus Gabby tomorrow. Overtaken versus Huang will not be played because Huang has been ill for quite a long period of time and is unfortunately still not in a position to play. It's been about a week and a half, 2 weeks as far as I know, so... Okay, come on, C90, don't ignore my New Year's greetings. Well, too late. I already ignored it, bro. What are you going to do about it? Maybe next year. Happy New Year. Happy New Year. I'm busy, man. I'm busy. I can't stop and greet everybody. I wouldn't be able to cast the games. It's all good, though. We're chill. We're chill. All right, so El Matador's pushed in 3 of his Zebras and Ostrich so far. And I've seen a lot of players just pushing all of it. Very rarely do you see any Dark Age strategies here. So sometimes players don't really feel the need to scout. It's very similar to Jungle Swamp, I guess. Well, that seems to be what Mihai's doing right now. Maps are kind of hard to break down on this one. I think it's just fair to say that both players have open maps. But, I mean, if we were to see walling, I would prefer El Matador's map because he could wall this way and this way. He kind of can wall towards the corner a bit more. And most of his important resources would be behind him. But very easy to over-chop on these wood lines. Very easy to lose track of that. And I think regardless of whether you're walling or not, you definitely need to control the map as much as possible, right? You still need to have some army. I did notice the 4 on wood decision for El Matador, which is extremely uncommon if you want to go for scouts. So he might want to go for something other than scouts. And then we also have an early barracks for Mihai, who seems to be moving out to find his opponent, but also at the same time is like kind of coming back home. So this is a drush from him. So he is gonna play into a Dark Age strategy, which, like I said, a lot of times that can surprise people because people don't usually go for that on this map. But I think the reason we don't normally see that on this map is because people can be up so quickly. And so they're almost always going to have loom before the militia arrive. Yo, what's up, Farland? Nice to see you. Farland, I will be casting... I know you wanted to see Heart sets. So we'll be casting Heart versus Gibitongs, the final series today. Really excited to see how bad Koala and Whitecourt perform together. Just 2 players I've never seen play against each other before, and like... a matchup that was kind of expected in some ways if you would have looked at the predictions for the brackets, but still, it's just a really interesting clash of players. Like, Mihai El Matador probably played each other on ladder a million times, and they even practiced together for this event. But, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, oh god, there's the militia, quick wall. Needs another palisade, got it. Should be fine now. Actually, 3 militia, holy crap. But yeah, so like this series, I've seen these players play against each other so many times. The other one will not be that way, so I'm excited to see how that will play out. Heart and Gibitong, though, is like the set of the day. It's the set we're finishing off the day with. I'm excited for that, too. Both players in their peak have been like top 30 players who, you know, top 30 would have them in gold, right? But both players took breaks and we're not competing consistently. And so they find themselves up against each other. El Matador went up pretty late compared to, considering how much food he pushed into his TC here, and he's got to do some quick walling shenanigans here. Not just on the wood line, but also on the berries, and he still isn't fully taking gold. So I actually think this drush from Mihai was disgustingly good. Look at that. He made 3 militia. He disrupted a lot of eco, and there's the potential to kill Vils, and he's only up 30 seconds behind his opponent. That is an amazing build from Mihai. So El Matador, we'll see if he wants to go forward. We'll see if he even knows where his opponent is. He's heading forward, so he's going to try and find him, and he's actually going to do what Mihai did in the previous game and probably make that archer range forward. Meanwhile, Mihai is going to send 2 villagers this way, and I imagine this is going to be for a tower, but he might even be tempted to go for a forward archer range. Quick walls at home from Mihai. He saw the barracks. I'm not sure if he ever saw that it was going to be militia. He sees the militia now. So he needs to wall in his gold, which should be easy enough here. Woodline will be awkward. He can't make a tower or an archer range yet. And this is... Uh-oh, that's an exposed Vil. Mihai needs to wall this. And El Matador needs to block it. I don't think he realized. And, okay, dead Vil. That's no big deal. And there's double range? Oh, God. This is going to get so crazy, guys. Because there's going to be no defense for either player. Which I'm very excited for. My heart goes out to these two for what they're about to experience, though, because it's not going to be fun. Oh, God. Double range forward versus 1 range forward with man-at-arms. Who dies faster? Well, the difference maker here can oftentimes just be the tower. So, like, a tower here could actually be super good for El Matador because it protects his berries and it also protects his wood. And gold, he might not need to worry about if he just ends up making skirms to counter this. Also, El Matador needs to attack this palisade wall because the Vils are going to run out of that. Yeah, they're going to run that direction. So he could have had his man-at-arms in a better position. But obviously, all this stuff's like easier said than done because now he has to react to this. And he just deletes all the palisades and leaves. Good news is you're Hun, so you could realistically probably place another lumber camp somewhere. And I don't mind this tower for Mihai either, because Mihai protects a wood line and protects gold. And he actually is going to take the zebra too, so he's got food income even though he lost his berries. But you need a tower right away if you're El Matador. But wait, where is it? Oh my God, he's towering his gold. Okay, I think that's really going to hurt. I think wood food is actually more important in this scenario. And the micro from Mihai, so good. I jinxed him. He didn't get that other villager. And look at this wood eco right now for our Hun player. Oh, man. The straggler trees are going to be all gone pretty soon. And meanwhile, though, Mihai needs defense for this. And Mihai has really struggled to produce villagers here. Both players have horrible economies. And they can't defend themselves. Oh, sheesh, man. Oh, all these Vils could die. These Vils are running. It's just like... I realistically think it comes down to the tower position. Because at least with this tower, you can still take some wood efficiently. Oh, God. These Vils are going out to more trees because they ran out of stragglers. I mean, it also could come down to scouting, too, right? Like, Mihai would have killed all these Vils if he found it. Holy crap. Yeah, I'm also a little surprised we saw El Matador get horsepower. But you could make an argument it's worth it to squeeze it in because your economies are going to be rough on either side. And the farms will last longer, and wood is an issue. You can't really calculate things like that in this game, you know? It's just like... It just comes down to adapting majority of the time. Okay, Mihai is definitely confused. He does not understand this. He's like, where is he taking wood? I haven't seen him take wood at all. Like, look at what he's seen. And he doesn't even see villagers on straggler trees anymore. So this is definitely at a point where he should realize to check for more wood. But he might think that all the idols are in there. And he might think he's won this game if that's the case. That said, he's going to lose a villager there. Also, idle TC time for El Matador is very impressive. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is so funny. Villagers dying there. Villager kinda, sorta, kinda died there. I don't Holy crap. If Mihai finds this, he's in Gold League. He just needs to find that wood line. Meanwhile, he's abusing the feature. I actually think it's good for the game. I don't think it's a bug, but people do it more nowadays than ever. If a farm is being attacked, the farmer can't collect resources from it. So he's just attacking the farm so they cannot be used. Super annoying when it happens to you. But also, Mihai still has no defense for this area of his map. And I guess he can't freely take this wood line. Especially won't be able to now that Fletching's going to be in for El Matador. Mihai, where do you think he's taking wood, man? Just get one unit and look for the wood. Just one. I mean, that, or at this point, there's only like 6 army on your side. Okay, he's kind of doing it now. Just bring some army home. Yeah, he's looking now. I mean, this ends the game. That would kill too many villagers to come back from. And Mihai's got good farming eco now. He's able to get back on the wood now because he's brought some army home. He's sending more army home too. El Matador, he might have safe gold, but he really needed some safe wood here, I think. Because then he could make more farms and he could make more skirms. Or make any skirms. But this is funny. I think, unfortunately for El Matador, as good as he is playing on the front right now and as good as he's played in this series, I think that this is going to fall apart for him the second this is found. Because his eco is barely alive as is. He loses all these villagers. It's just game over. It should be pretty easy for Mihai to get archers home to deal with this. And now he realizes it. And I think this is where we might even see the GG call. What a crazy moment. Mihai just got reckless and said, let's just go crazy. And in that split second where they both had to make towers, made the better decision. Might be wrong. Man-at-Arms here attacking villagers. Also, great micro from El Matador. He's really keeping himself in this with this micro. Are you kidding me? Okay. Now his villagers are attacking archers. Okay. Not sure about that one, but he kind of has to. He did get a market down, so he's just bought a bunch of wood and food for things, but 9-2 eco KD. It's about to be 10 villagers killed now by Mihai. Let's make that 11. We'll make that 12 while we're at it. Good micro to get the one out in front as well. And El Matador, I'm sure, is disappointed. He's got a lot of talent. He says GG's and good luck in gold. And Mihai, the #1 seed in this group, moves on to gold, and I'm excited to see what he can do. I think El Matador showed exactly why he made it to this stage, and why El Matador will be a massive threat to anyone the next time we do Silver League for the next season, because he's just good. He's just got talent, right? The only thing I could say is, it's just decision mistakes in the crucial moments. Like game #2 on Houseboat, I think he had the best build order, or at least he knew exactly what he was going to do. And then he tried to get too fancy. He tried to do all this fancy, crazy stuff, and everything fell apart. Game 3, that was him believing in Vikings. I actually think he played really well in game 3. But then, in this game, it's honestly just the tower. I mean, Mihai came in as the heavy favorite here. Don't get me wrong. The guy's been top 30 on the ladder for a while. Everyone was kind of expecting him to go to gold, but El Matador could have beaten him with a couple tweaks here or there in each game. Really well played from Mihai in this one, though. I think the most impressive thing for me is not just the tower position, but the build order was disgusting. 10-16 feudal time behind 3 militia. Those 3 militia obviously had a pretty big impact, and they delayed El Matador. And then multiple times in this series, he showed the confidence to do some crazy things, which he might not do that frequently. And the double range forward really caught El Matador off guard. El Matador thought that he was going to be the aggressor, and he was going to be the one that was going to surprise his opponent, but wasn't to be there. GG, well played. Yeah, a 13-2 eco KD when Mihai had Man-at-Arms and archers on his face and was in feudal age later is impressive damage control, to say the least, right? But I am curious how this game goes, because if the tower's here, upon seeing the 2 archers, if you scramble down the tower, you have access to your wood, you have access to your berries, wood access means more farms. Wood access means skirms. And, like, the counter to skirms obviously ends up being scouts eventually. But I think you would have had enough pressure on your opponent where he wouldn't be able to have the food eco for that. I mean, I don't know. Normally, let's just say this. Against double range archers, one archer range skirmishers with full armor and attack is normally good enough to hold. Granted, there was no archer range at home from El Matador, so he probably would have needed that. But then, you know, I guess he would have had the wood for it. Anyways, great series. Hope people enjoyed. Looking forward to seeing Mihai in gold. I think Mihai, I mean, we'll have a further conversation on this at some point, but I think Mihai is definitely good enough to even stay in gold, right? Like, I don't think that he's going to be one of, if there's going to be any, that get promoted into gold and then are like favorites to be relegated out of it. He's really consistent player with a promising future.